morning, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials or I bring you updates on true crime or a true crime story. Today I have an update on a true crime story that happened back in 2002. Yeah, 20 years ago. But first, how was your weekend? Mine was fantastic. I crafted all weekend. Did a little house cleaning, did some crafting. Let me have some coffee. So it was a cross stitch weekend. So Friday and Saturday I worked on the cross stitch. The white Santa. You can't see it because I kind of have it. There it is. There. Kind of have it covered up. So it goes all the way over to here. So I've started page 2. Yay! Yeah. Of how many pages, you say? 8 pages. Okay. Then I worked on this, the Grafgan. I'm doing a blanket, and it's all squares of gnomes. So this was I did a female gnome for April, and I wanted to do a male gnome for April. So here, I still have to put all the strings in. So here's the male gnome. So what I will be doing this morning, I'll get my darning needles out, and I will be putting all those little strings, sewing them all in. Yeah, it goes very quickly. It's not a big deal, really. The bottom part is already done. I just have to work here on the top part, because every time you start and stop a thread, not every time, but a lot of times when you stop and start a thread, you have a loose thread. So I also had the bug to watercolor paint this weekend. So I found this new YouTuber. No, she's not a new YouTuber, new to me, with some really great tutorials. So I said, hey, let me try it. So here's the first one. And I sketched these out first, these little birdies. I sketched everything out, and then I painted it. Now, I kind of want to do this one again, but I want to do like a wet on wet background first, and then add in the birds. I think that'd be really cool. So I may do that with that one. This one, I'm not crazy about it. I mean, it's just okay. But I have a lot of work to do. I do, to get better. Here's another. And I really want to get better at landscapes. Look at this one with the house on the hill. It's kind of cool. If you saw what I did when I first started, you'd be like, whoa, you've come a long way. Still have a long way to go. Now here's my absolute favorite painting that I have ever done. And I did it this weekend. Look at this, guys. Yes. I don't know if you can see. You probably can't, but there's a little red cardinal right there in the middle of this gorgeous sort of ethereal winter scene. Now, I'm going to talk to my buddy Crashley and see if she wants to do this as a release paper. I don't know. We'll see. I just dropped it. So that was what I did this weekend. And if I can get her to do it as a release paper, I'll let you know. How cool would that be? So let's talk about, while I sew these ends in, let's talk about, we're going to go to South Carolina. Yes, we're going to, it's Murdaugh Monday. So there's not a lot to update you on Murdaugh Monday. I will tell you that Russell Lafitte, who was convicted in federal court of conspiring with Alex Murdaugh to steal all that money. He was convicted of bank fraud, wire fraud, and he had filed an appeal after the trial of Alex Murdaugh, because Alex got on the stand and said if Russell did anything wrong, he did it unknowingly. It was all me. Well, so he filed an appeal, and he said, look, the guy says I didn't do it. So basically, the appellate court kind of laughed at him. They're like, we're supposed to take the word of a convicted killer, so because Alex is now convicted of the murder of his wife and son. We're supposed to take his word that you didn't have anything to do with this. Plus, he has a history of dishonesty. He'd been stealing from his law firm for 20 years, and he's a drug addict. I'm supposed to believe that? Appeal was denied. So, yeah, poor old Russell Laffitte. He's just going to sit there in jail. But I will tell you, he hasn't been sentenced yet. Yeah, he hasn't been sentenced yet. So, because it's federal court, they do things different in federal court. So let's go to the current story out of South Carolina. And the way this ties in with Murdaugh is it just shows the corruption that is going on in South Carolina. Like, what is going on with the judicial system and the justice system in South Carolina? Like, when you hear this story, you'll be like, what? Yeah. A guy named Gerald Price. He's 41 years old now. At the time of this murder, he was 21 years old. December 6th, 2002. The Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity was having a party. They had rented a private club called Voodoo in Columbia, and they were having a private party. So at this private party was Gerald Price, 21-year-old Gerald Price, and 22-year-old Carl Smalls. Now, Carl Smalls was a defensive lineman. I don't know football. He's a defensive lineman for the University of South Carolina, and then he transferred and was playing football for the University of North Carolina until he broke some rules, and he was actually suspended for a couple of games, and his coach was getting ready to talk to him about his future in football. So what happened is that these two got into a confrontation. Carl Smalls, the ex-football player, was a member of the Crips gang, and what's his name? Gerald Price was a member of the Blood. So the party ends, and Carl Smalls, he's looking for a gun, but he can't find one. But Gerald Price, he goes out to his car and with some friends, and they get guns, and they're just going to hang out and make sure everybody's safe while the money's counted. So they're inside the club, and all of a sudden, what the witnesses say was they witnessed a struggle between Price and Smalls. Price went for a gun at his waist belt during the struggle and shot Carl Smalls. Now, Price says he was defending himself. This was self-defense. That Smalls came after him. He's a bigger guy than Price was, but he came after him, and he was defending himself. And during this, they were struggling. He says, I admit it, we were struggling over the gun. He was trying to get the gun away from me, and the gun went off. And it hit him in the chest, the stomach, and the hip. So anyway, he passed away, Carl Smalls. And a few people went on trial for the murder, but it took the jury 30 minutes to convict Gerald Price of murder, first-degree murder. Now, in South Carolina, when you're convicted of murder, there's a state statute that says you must serve mandatory, day for day, 30 years of your sentence. You must do that. Well, 20 years into his sentence, March 15th of this year, Gerald Price was released. And the reason he was released was in a sealed affidavit. He was released under the order of Judge, let me find it, Casey Manning. Judge Casey Manning, on his last day in office, his last day on the bench, he writes up this he has this sealed affidavit, and he writes an order. There was no motion for this order. Like, nobody said, hey, we'd like to get him out. It was all like done, through the good old buddy system, he signs an order releasing Gerald Price from jail. And then he seals the order, meaning no one can look at the order. Well, that did not sit well with a lot of people in South Carolina. They're like, what? Because supposedly Gerald Price is the king of, what do they call it? Gangsta Killer Blood. This gang. He is their king, and he apparently was running this gang, running the gang through while he was in prison. I don't know how you do that, but apparently he was. So once the reporters got wind of this, and this started making national news, so all of a sudden there was a lot of squawking going on in South Carolina. Like, how is this guy released? First of all, you have to serve day for day 30 years on a sentence of murder. And second of all, he was released without a motion. He was released without the signature of the head judge, the chief judge. Because if you're going to release somebody early, the chief judge has to sign off on it. Also, you have to notify the victims, and they have to have an opportunity to speak about the release. This did not happen. They did get notified, but they had no opportunity to speak before he was released. Plus, he was serving his sentence in New Mexico. And the reason he was serving his South Carolina sentence in New Mexico is because he had threatened twice to kill. He had put out hits on 2 correctional, what are they called? The guys that run the prison, you know. What are they called? Oh my goodness. Correctional wardens. They're the wardens. Gosh. Okay. Yeah. He had put out hits on 2 wardens. Never been charged for that. Anyway. So he's released from the New Mexico prison on March 15th, just, a few weeks ago. And nobody knows where he's at. It looks like he got his driver's license in South Carolina on April 7th. He listed an address, and they think maybe that's where he's at. They don't know. So because everybody was, this has been such a media storm over this release of this prisoner without, under a sealed order, there was a petition filed with the Supreme Court of South Carolina to unseal this order. Everybody wants to know, why was he released? So as it turns out, 3 reasons why they released him early. Reason number 1, they say he alerted corrections officials about an escaped prisoner. This particular prisoner was he was sentenced to prison after he held his defense attorney and the defense attorney's family at gunpoint in their home for hours. Now, they weren't harmed, but so he went to prison for that. Well, he had apparently escaped, and here's how he escaped. This is crazy. You can't make this stuff up. He had someone send him wire cutters dropped into the prison via a drone. Now, what? They don't see like a drone flying over and wire. How do you? Aren't they in towers and don't they watch? Maybe I'm being very naive. Anyway, he gets the wire cutters. He cuts himself out of prison. And the kicker is, the prison officials don't even know he's gone. They had no idea he had escaped until Price notified him. Price, who's in New Mexico, I guess, heard on the street that the guy had escaped and he was living in Texas. And so he notified someone on the outside who notified the prison officials, who were very surprised to know that they had an escaped prisoner who had escaped. This was his second escape. He had escaped before. Is it that easy to get out of prison? What? I know. That is just crazy. So that's reason number one. He notified them of this escaped prisoner. And this happened back in 2017, by the way, this prison break. Then there was, in January 2017, supposedly he saved a guard's life. There was, he came into a room and there was half a dozen men that were around this guard. Guard was on the ground. They were kicking and punching him. And then one of the prisoners had a homemade knife that he made in the prison and not at home and was getting ready to stab this guard, and he intervened. So that's reason number two. Reason number three is there was a female guard who a prisoner was getting ready to beat with a broomstick, and he intervened there and saved her life. So because of these three good deeds, so to speak, they were going to let him out of prison, or they did let him out of prison. So the affidavit or the order's been unsealed. This is the reason he's been let out of prison, and people are like going, no, still an illegal release, and so now they are asking for a bench warrant to be issued for Gerald Price's arrest. Good luck finding him. So, yeah. Isn't that just crazy? Did I miss anything in this crazy story? Oh, I did. He's represented by this powerful state legislator, Todd Rutherford. And Todd has said, now that the affidavit or the order has been unsealed, my client is in danger. You have just put a hit on him. Basically he's got a target on his back now, because he'll be seen as this person, this do-gooder in prison, and now people are going to go after him. Boo-hoo, right? Do we care? Yeah. He murdered somebody. He didn't serve his sentence, his mandatory sentence. And there is a provision in the state statute of South Carolina that allows for early release of prisoners who do good deeds, such as saving an officer's life. However, that statute doesn't address people that are under a minimum mandatory sentence for murder. So I think that will all get fleshed out here in the coming few weeks. So what else is happening on the Murdaugh front? Now that we're in South Carolina, let's just go for broke. Curtis Eddie Smith was released from jail. And you're like, okay, that name sounds familiar. Who is he? Well, as you recall, Alex Murdaugh, remember his wife and son were murdered. He murdered his wife and son in July of 2021 or 2020. I don't remember. Anyway, of that same, so they're murdered that day. Then in September of that same year, as you recall, his law firm found out that he was stealing, and they asked him to step down. And there was they all gathered at his parents' home in Almeda, and his best friend Chris came over, and Chris had loaned him money, and, he confronted him. And so Alex decides he don't want to live anymore, and he decides he's going to do this fake suicide thing. So he claims that he called Curtis Eddie Smith, and they arranged to do this fake shooting on the side of the road where Curtis Eddie Smith would shoot him, and then his kids would get the $10 million in life insurance. Well, first of all, no one has ever seen proof that he had that much life insurance. No one has ever, people have asked to see, can we see evidence that you really had this amount of life insurance? never proved that he had that kind of life insurance. But second of all, Curtis, apparently when Curtis gets there, he changes his mind, and there's a struggle over the gun, and the gun goes off, and Alex is grazed, like not shot at all, grazed, and Curtis leaves. So Curtis gets charged with all these different charges, and he's put in jail. Curtis doesn't have any money. Curtis is not one of the well-to-do South Carolinians. He's not wealthy. But it's thought that Alex Murdaugh was laundering money through Curtis Eddie Smith, and probably was, and that he may have been his drug supplier. But I don't think he had anything to do really with this roadside shooting, or very little to do with this roadside shooting. In any case, he was in jail. His bond had been revoked. And within the last, it was about 2 weeks ago, he came before the judge. There was a new motion to reinstate his bond. So the prosecutor, one of the prosecutors that was on the Murdaugh trial, came in and said, listen, he cooperated with us during the Murdaugh trial. He was prepared to testify. We spent many, many hours with him. He was very, very cooperative. In the end, we didn't need him to testify, but we promised that we would let you know that he was very cooperative. So the judge, and it was the same judge as the Murdaugh trial, he reinstated Curtis Eddie Smith's bond. The other thing the defense attorney pointed out was that Curtis Eddie Smith had gained a bunch of weight because he has a medical condition that wasn't being addressed in prison, probably diabetes. So now he would get back home and he would be able. And Curtis said to the judge, listen, I'm a very active person, but there wasn't nothing to do in jail. He says, I do all kinds of farming and, but I didn't have nothing to do in jail, so I sat around and got fat. So anyway, he got let out on bond. Interesting, huh? Okay. That's your Murdaugh update, guys. So I also have a true crime calendar. I forgot it for a week, but let's bring it back. The War on Terror, Amber Heard. This is a story about Amber Heard. Remember Amber Heard? Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. On April 21st, 2015, actress Amber Heard checked no on an Australian customs form box asking if she was traveling with animals on her private jet, despite her two terriers, Pistol and Boo, being on board. The error, which Heard later attributed to a paperwork mix-up, was recently dismissed staffer. Okay, let me read that again. The error, which Heard later attributed to a paperwork mix-up with a recently dismissed staffer, sparked the most publicized criminal quarantine case in history. Australia is known for its strict biosecurity laws, and some, including Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce, interpreted Heard's alleged oversight as a flagrant flouting of those laws. Joyce went so far as to threaten Pistol and Boo with euthanasia. Ooh, that's bad. Heard was charged with breaching quarantine laws and providing a false document on entry. The former charges were dropped due to a lack of evidence, and Heard pleaded guilty to the latter. She was fined $1,000, but the real punishment was the awkward biosecurity PSA the Australian government asked her and then husband Johnny Depp to record. The way the two stiffly addressed the camera, Heard apologizing for her actions and Depp affirming the importance of biosecurity laws, is enough to scare any visitor into obeying. What? That is crazy. Okay. A Good Deed by Johnny Depp and Amber Heard while they were married. Okay. Biosecurity. Oh my goodness. All right. Last but not least, today I have an unboxing. It is from my brother. You guys know him as CW Glaze on YouTube. He's in my chat a lot. He is a regular subscriber. He's also the moderator of my Discord. If you guys have not joined the Discord, you should join up. we have a lot of cool chit chats there in the Discord. There's a place where you can suggest shows, true crime cases that you'd like me to cover. My poor clock, it needs a new battery. It really does. Oh my God, you guys, look at this. He made this. Look. Oh, is that not gorgeous? I have to put this somewhere here. Somewhere where it won't get broken. Maybe over on the door over there. Oh, it's beautiful. And he sent one for my sister. Hers is, oh wow, this gorgeous green color. Look at that. That's beautiful. Not as beautiful as the pink, but I love the way it's got these two tones in it. The green and the yellow tone. Good job. Good job. Look at this. Okay. He has an Etsy shop. I will put down in the description his Etsy shop. It's Sean Made at Etsy.com. I'll put a link to his store, and you can purchase one of the dragons yourself, or you can purchase a mug. Okay. There's two. One for me, one for my sister. I don't know which is which. I suspect mine is pink. But I do want to show you the work that he does. It's gorgeous. Oh, this one's my sister's because it has her name on it. Gorgeous. Look at that. Beautiful. And it's huge. The mug is huge. All right, I'm going to give that to my sister. Oh, I can't wait to see mine. Okay. Oh my God. You guys. Oh, look how pretty. It says, Crafting and Crime Daily, Rebecca. I love it. I love the colors. Look at the colors. Is that not gorgeous? And look, it says, Crafting and Crime Daily. I have a new coffee cup. Coffee cup. Yes, I do. These are beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. That is the show for today, guys. I hope to see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Have a great Monday. I'm going to go enjoy my mugs and my dragons. Don't forget to check out his store down below. Take care, everybody. Bye.